Guys, sorry I could not physically be there today at this career fair to talk with you all about your future careers as speech language pathologists, or as we're often referred to as SLPs. I am so excited that you all chose this career to go into. There are so many things that make this job amazing, and I know that once you get started, you will all love it even more. Now, I understand that going to college is a scary thing, and it takes a lot of courage. But it seems like it's even more terrifying for the fact that you don't really know what you're walking into. Luckily, for you guys, you're a couple steps ahead of the game by knowing your major already. But I am here to help you guys even more so by knowing what to expect the writing in this field to be like before you even get to the college. The main things that you are always going to see or pick up on right away with an academic research paper will be the language or the tone that the author used, how it is organized, which will tell you a lot about the article and possibly about the author's thinking, as well as how it's laid out, which can help us to try and understand the article better. I do so in order by talking about two articles. One, get ready, here's a mouthful, lexical access, story retelling and sequencing skills in adults who clutter and those who do not. And the other was titled Connecting Stuttering Management and Measurement, Core Speech Measures of Clinical Process and Outcome. I have also interviewed an actual clinician, Dr. Blaker, who is also a professor here at the University of New Mexico, or UNM. I will also tell you a little bit about our conversation. As I mentioned earlier, the language and the tone of the paper will tell you a lot about the article itself. Throughout an article titled Lexical Access, Story, Retelling, and Sequencing, Skills in Adults Who Clutter and Those Who Do Not, that was written by Jessica Brotherton Furness and David Ward, the tone was very professional. I know I already mentioned that name once before, but it's important to mention it again in case you guys want to further look it up and read a little bit about what's to come. Although it was really geared towards speech pathologists. You have to know a lot about this field or know a lot about speech disorders in order to understand these articles based off of the language that is used. An example of this is in the other article, again titled Connecting Stuttering Management and Measurement, Core Speech Measures of Clinical Process and Outcome, that was written by Rosalie Schenker. We will see things like dysrhythmic phonetation, and we all know that this is not something we're going to know until we're actually involved in the field. When I spoke with Dr. Blaker, this is the same thing that she said. She said that you have to know the slang or the jargon of the field, and that is extremely important for more than just understanding the research papers, but also understanding the patient write-ups, which are also called SOAP notes. I bet you're all wondering what the heck SOAP notes are. Right? I thought so. Well, SOAP notes are a written document that you will do after you see a client, and they are simply this. How is the subject feeling today? This is the S in the acronym. What is the objective of the day? Get it? Oh, that's the O. In other words, we are trying to accomplish something throughout this sit down, but what is it? The A stands for measurement, and that's what we're looking over in our notes to see what is working, what isn't, and what should we try next. Lastly, the P. That's the plan for the day. And that's pretty self-explanatory. It sounds just like what it is. What are we going to do with the client? And in what ways are we going to do it? So, as you can tell, knowing the jargon and what goes on in this field is extremely important. Because you're going to need to understand the contents of your paper that you will be reading, and it's also the way that you communicate with your fellow SLPs. If you do not know about the language or what the language is in this field, you will not understand your papers, nor will you be able to convey your ideas to your fellow SLPs or understand what they're trying to tell you or trying to tell you about your client. When I asked Dr. Blaker about the type of writing she comes across every day, it was an identical description to what the first article looked like. You should expect to see an abstract and then an introduction as the opening of the article. This is where you will be informed on what the paper is all about, and normally a definition of what specifically you are looking at. Like in this article, we were looking at cluttering. Don't worry, you'll learn about cluttering later, but you will see the methodology and that how it was used in this experiment, as well as the author going over in detail what exactly this methodology looked like and how it affected the patients or who exactly these patients were. The results will be the key in this field for the fact that this is where you're going to find out how you need to help assess your clients better for their particular speech disorder. You also come across a discussion section that is the author explaining several things in more detail and more than likely having more than one opinion in this section as well. Lastly, you will come across the conclusion of the article. However, you may come across an article like the second one that I mentioned earlier. I'm not going to do that again, in which it will be organized the same way as the one mentioned at first. In this particular article, it is more of a cross between humanities and hard sciences. The author goes straight to the point and doesn't dilly-dally and need to explain a lot of things. They're very clear on the topic, and they were looking specifically at what the clinicians and their treatments are for the outcome of those who stutter, rather than going over cluttering and in the ways that it is how it is today, and that they're still not really sure what it is. So you can tell that the organization can tell us a lot about the authors and whether or not they get right to the point of their material or they take their time to explain how it is that we got where we are. Also, the layout. The layout in most academic papers are always the same, but not always. Just like the organization was not the same in the two articles as I mentioned earlier, neither is the way, I guess you would say, in which that they are laid out. In the first article, you will see the title of the writing at the top of the paper in large font, and it's made bold, much more bold than the rest of the other font, or the other content. You also notice that the writing itself is almost box-like and in large paragraphs. The formatting is in the first, and it's very difficult from that of the second. The second article was very uniform and seemed to flow all together, which could show that the ideas were much more uniform than rather in the first one where it seemed a little bit more spread out. Sometimes there will be a lot of space on the sides of the papers, but in these two articles, the margins were very small. If you do find an article with large margins, take note, that this will be a great place to take notes on your own thoughts for this particular writing or even for the particular speech disorder. Now, here's what I found most difficult my first year of college. Not letting all of this information overwhelm me. Of course, school's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it in the end. I can pinky promise you this. It is going to be really hard at times, and other times you will understand why all this is going to be good for your future. Now, you will need to know more on this, but at least you know what is to come and the possible writing that you may be doing one day or have to read. And hopefully this will help you not be overwhelmed like I was, because there's really no need. When you get to this stage, you're going to run across things that you know. You're going to know the language. You're going to know what it is that you're talking about. And it'll all be okay. So, looking at the language and the tone, the organization, and the layout of the articles, or the professionals in this field, help us to understand why things like this are the way that they are. And that it's all normally beneficial to our clients, the people that we care about the most. The purpose for us to look at the style of writing and research done in our field is to see how these papers come together and how they are written as a way to educate or inform professionals in speech pathology on specific speech disorders. or just speech disorder in general. You can also learn to have a little fun with this by knowing the misconceptions in our field, and that people outside of our field think that we study a dead language, according to Dr. Blaker, who apparently has gotten this quite a lot. They think that we study a dead language solely off of the word pathologist. Not even close. You also get some of the strangest looks in your life when you try to explain what it is that you do. And sometimes people just stop talking to you. So get ready for that. But know that it's also because that they don't really know much about speech pathology. So take the time to maybe let them know what it is that you're going to be doing, and then maybe you guys can have an actual conversation on it instead of them getting awkward. So start looking forward to your future and don't let it overwhelm you. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye.